Hey, Comics Cubers. Our guest today is animator Kennedy Tarrell, who has worked on things like Wish from Disney, Madagascar is a Little Wild, and is currently at work on Disney's Hex. However, we're talking to her about her debut graphic novel, which just came out, called Evil-ish, a young adult fantasy featuring a disillusioned teen who just really wants to be a villain. If you like the Comics Cube, if you like what we do, please consider subscribing to us on Patreon. We're cheap. You get advanced videos and you get to see works in progress as well as articles and posts. Or you can make a one-time donation on PayPal. The links are down below. Without further ado, Kennedy Tarrell. Welcome back to the Comics Cube, everyone. I am joined today by Kennedy Tarrell, who is an animator. Oh, is that accurate to say? An animator or a story artist, or what's the accurate word here?
But I think I use animator. I work in animation, so to speak.
Who works in animation. Specifically, right now, you're working in Disney
Yes, that's right.
um, on an unnamed project.
Well, actually, it was announced this weekend. It's Hexed. Yeah, it was announced to the world. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, who is currently working on Hexed
Yeah.
for Disney, a movie that will undoubtedly be near and dear to my heart, considering its subject matter. You guys can Google it. But also, you have worked on movies such as Wish.
Right. hmm
Great movie, by the way. Disney's 100th anniversary movie.
100th anniversary. Yeah, it was my first movie at Disney, and super fun to come onto, and I learned a ton on the 2 years I was on it.
What can I ask? What you did while on Wish?
Yeah, so I started as a story artist when the movie was still in development, and a lot of that was like taking early passes at the characters and themes, and it changed quite a bit. I was a story artist through the whole movie, and a lot of the stuff I did was like with Magnifico. I did some stuff with Amaya, and yeah, saw it through to the end. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw on your website that you had some very early sketches for Star, and
Yes.
to say that that went through a few changes, bit,
Yes, Star went through a lot. Yeah,
bit of an understatement. The end result
totally.
is really cute.
Oh,
It's really cute. We are here to talk about your graphic novel, Evil-ish, um,
great.
which I hear you did as a pandemic project.
Oh boy, yeah. Yes, very much a pandemic project. Yeah.
Before we start talking about Evil-ish, I have one question that I ask to everybody who comes onto my show, which is, I guess I'll ask you two questions. Why do you love animation, and why do you love comics?
Ooh, those are both good. To be honest, my love of animation starts with my love of comics. They're both really linked for me. My favorite TV show growing up was Teen Titans, and it was suddenly like comic books felt accessible to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
would go to the comic store and I would pick up the Teen Titan comic books. And from there, I fell in love with Western comics and a lot of manga. And that was just like my escape. I was a huge reader. And then as I started to watch more TV shows that were like, Avatar felt a little bit like the Teen Titan comics. That they're all sort of one entity for me, which is just like really cool storytelling with characters that are like larger than life.
Those Teen Titans cartoon was a gateway to so many things because it got
Yes,
people into American comics at the same time. It would acclimate American comics fans to that manga style.
totally, totally. It was like honestly mind blowing. And if you think about it in the perspective of like that early crew on Teen Titans putting in like anime like visual storytelling or even timing or tropes, like must have been a hard fight. And the end result was awesome.
Yeah, because you can tell, I think, at the beginning, you could say this, I think, of both Teen Titans and Avatar. At the beginning, you can kind of tell they were being told to put in some gags to make
hmm
it more kid friendly, and then as the show goes on, it's just more and more epic and more serious. Growing up, as you were seeing those things happening on the air, uh, how do you think that shaped your mind or your view of art or animation?
Yeah, um I think it started to feel accessible to me in a way that art, like I think, most kids like to draw, and I certainly loved art, but the idea that you could use shorthands to make something like funny or read more quickly, it felt like uh, something that I had the power to do. And also, like, how to draw manga was really popular, how to draw books were out there on the internet. So I think for me, it started to be like a headspace that I could play in and imagine in. And I remember being a kid, like playing Teen Titans or like, you're a firebender, you're a waterbender on the playground. And then I started to be able to like, I think there was like an era where everyone was like, oh man, what if The Simpsons was anime? Or like, I remember thinking like, what if like the Boxcar Children were cartoons? And you can kind of like, it's a visual way to think about like I guess adaptations uh, or yeah, like a visual way to think about storytelling.
Yeah, drawing one thing that is in a certain style into another style has always been a fun
Yeah,
exercise. Um,
totally.
did you have a favorite Teen Titans character?
Oh man, it's a tie between Raven and Starfire. Raven was so cool. Maybe Raven. Yeah.
Raven. Did you have a favorite Avatar character?
Okay, this is controversial. I love Prince Zuko, but I actually love his season one design the most. I just think it's so specific and cool, and he hasn't gone through like the teen heartthrob transformation. It's just like he's so distinct and awesome, and like just so cool.
That I was gonna say, picking Prince Zuko as a favorite character is not controversial,
Yeah,
but
no.
the rest of that is.
Yes, it is. I know because he's so pre-arced, but I just there's something so cool about the ponytail cut at the end of season one, or I guess kind of into season two. It's just so iconic to me.
Yeah, Prince Zuko, I think, is a lot of people's favorite characters, but
Totally.
I think most people would say the later Prince Zuko.
Yeah, totally. Which is fair. That's valid.
Aside from Teen Titans and Avatar, did you have any artists that you took a lot of cues from, you were influenced by?
I was also a Disney kid, and definitely loved the work of Mark Davis, who is, I don't think I knew at the time it was Mark Davis's work, but the artist behind, um, he did a lot of, I mean, everything at Disney Animation on Sleeping Beauty. He did the character designs for a great deal of, and like production design for The Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. And when you see his sketches, they really remind me of like French comics is where I get a lot of my inspiration now, and it's
Uh,
really like ink forward and really I don't know, each little ink stroke is just so joyful, and I think he's been like the biggest influence on me.
what about what about did you always make comics? Did you always write and draw as a kid? Uh,
Yeah, 100%.
did what about writing wise?
Yeah, I actually think I think writing came first for me. I think drawing was just I was a little bit of an introverted kid. I liked acting, I liked producing like plays, but I was too shy. And so the sitting down and being able to write a story and then draw it out was like just the easiest way to tell a story. And also, I loved like newspaper comics, and so the four panel strip was like a really easy way to start with like a tiny bite-sized bit of story.
Do you have a favorite four panel strip growing
Ooh,
up?
uh, okay, I like Fox, Foxtrot, Foxtrot,
Foxtrot,
maybe
yeah.
Zits is really good. Baby Blues, I liked. Non Sequitur was like it was
Yeah.
bigger and it went this way. I
Went
like
this
that one
way.
a lot. Yeah.
And they'd get wild on that sometimes.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. Okay, Let's talk about evil-ish. I'm just gonna
Okay.
read the first paragraph on your website about evil-ish, which is a disillusioned teen dreams of fame and villainy in this hilarious and heartfelt young adult fantasy graphic novel from debut author illustrator Kennedy Tarrell. It stars a character named Hawthorne Vandercast who would like to be a villain, but then meets somebody with a heart of gold. So, uh,
Yeah.
what? Talk to me about the genesis of evil-ish.
Yeah. Gosh, where does it start? A lot of the genesis of it starts well before I thought I could ever work in comics. I had a period of time, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, where you're like ages 12 to 14 and you're coming up with your original characters. And I always loved characters with like big purple hair visually for some reason. That was really fun. Um, and I've also just always loved jerk characters. I don't know if that goes back to like my parents having watched Seinfeld. I don't know, but most of my characters I would create were like uh, bad people or people who had mistaken priorities or had a lesson to learn. And maybe that's like part of my love of Prince Zuko or like Raven, where it's like they have a terrible parent and they're not usually the do-gooder characters, I think, are often presented as the less complex one. It's the bad guys whose backstory you break open, and that's
Mhm.
compelling.
I mean, that's true. It's like we don't really spend a lot of time digging into Aang's past. I mean, we do, but
Yeah,
nowhere near as much as Zuko.
yeah. Aang has like a lot to learn, but Aang isn't like um he isn't as like on-screen conflicted. You're not as much like, oh, what's going on with that guy? Like, you know, Aang's gonna save the day. You know, he's gonna step up.
What goes into Hawthorne's into Hawthorne's character?
Yeah, so there's a lot in Hawthorne. I don't really like to write characters that are explicitly me, but instead I like to put like a little grain of something relatable to myself or to other people. And so I think for Hawthorne, one thing that I really wanted to do was um, write a character who maybe feels that they don't fit in their small town. So I'm from Nebraska, which I love and I'm grateful to have grown up in, but I often felt like, oh man, I want to move to a place where I can work in animation, where there's no winters. And and so I think Hawthorne, I wanted to sort of portray that teen feeling of like, ah, I gotta get out of here. Um, yeah, and then I also wanted to tell a story, frankly, about a non-binary character that the story really doesn't have anything to do with their gender identity. They just kind of happen to be non-binary, but also they hate that their town is so nice and cute.
It's too cute and boring. There's nothing
Yeah,
happening here.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
the town in question is named Idlewood.
That's
Um,
right.
and how'd you come up with that?
Oh man. Okay. So, I really love the idea of like a cute town, something really in contrast to Hawthorne. Initially, the first conception of this idea years and years and years ago, before it was like a graphic novel, was the idea that had what that Hawthorne, sorry, words. The idea that Hawthorne would have a lot of cousins, like many, many, many cousins, who were all super cute and kind of like the Keebler elves. Um, and as things changed and the story became more and more focused on Hawthorne, it sort of became that Hawthorne is from this town of like yeah, just cute little people living their fairy tale lives. Essentially, like if Belle and Beauty and the Beast was like, there aren't enough wolves in this town. What's happening here?
It's the opposite of Belle.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
Belle would like adventure.
Hmm.
And this town is so boring for her, but not necessarily cute. In Beauty and the
Yeah,
Beast.
totally. Yeah, I think Hawthorne is also a big fashionista, and like they feel that this town lacks like style, so that's a big part of it.
I do kind of see that in the way that you depict Hawthorne. Is there a particular visual influence for Hawthorne?
Totally. Pulling from a lot of like early comic stuff that I love, I was really into like Witch, which was like a French series that was translated. Uh, yeah, do you know Witch?
Literally every literally every female artist I talk to who
Yeah,
is your age says
yeah,
witch.
yeah.
And I've never read it because I'm 43 and
Right, right, right.
I'm like, wow, should I track down witch? Because everybody
This,
has
I mean, no,
mentioned
it's
it.
beautifully drawn. It's like it punches way above its weight class, and like the world is so beautifully depicted. So yeah, give it a flip through. It's gorgeous.
Oh, I guess I got to go find it. But talk to me
Yeah.
more about basing Hawthorne on the look of witch.
Yeah, just characters that had cool magical girl transformations, and it was really dependent on the character's personality. So it wasn't always cute. Some of it was kind of like they had these like gothy little wings. And I think also, yeah, like Jareth from The Labyrinth was a big David Bowie in
Mm,
general is like a huge influence on Hawthorne. And then just like my own emo days of like what I wished I would have loved to have been an emo kid, but just wasn't was I was wearing pink. My mom was like, "We have look, there's an American Girl doll t-shirt." Like that's just how I was. And so the idea that like Hawthorne is a big wannabe sort of emo kid, it's definitely a love letter to that.
born to be a raven, forced to be a starfire.
Too real, too real.
I was gonna say, and this might just be also the color scheme. I absolutely see Jareth from the Labyrinth, but also might be just because of the color scheme. It also kind of reminds me of Prince.
Oh, totally. Yes. Okay. I won't lie. I had a Prince phase in the middle of, I think, toward the end of inking and getting into coloring, and like even the song "Purple Rain" has such a
Mm.
big influence on my heart. So there's no way that my Prince phase didn't make its way into the coloring.
Well, that's I think fairly obvious. I think even looking at the cover, there is one website actually, and I'm trying to look for it. Oh yeah, there it is. The Macmillan website will show a few pages from your book.
Mhm.
So how many pages are we looking at? 208? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's 201 is like my final page count, but then there's some extra like bonus material at the end. So
Okay. I'll link to it down below, but the Macmillan
sure.
down below this video, but the Macmillan website has a 12-page preview of Evil-ish. And so Kennedy Hawthorne meets a girl named Maple, who is a bubbly, bright, and flowery girl. And it seems to me, and you can confirm this. It seems to me that this is the other side of your personality.
Called out. That's fair. That's fair.
Would it be fair
Yeah.
to say that Evil-ish is about you meeting yourself?
God, whoa, I gotta reread, perhaps. I feel like a friend once said, like, yeah, every author, every director, ultimately they are telling a story about themselves. They can deny it all they want. So I said, perhaps you're really right. There's elements of me in definitely in Maple, just as there are in Hawthorne. So yeah.
Can you talk more about Maple?
Yeah, yeah. So how spoilery should I get, or should I leave it vague-ish?
I guess that depends on you. How much?
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't. I Here's what I'll say about Maple. I really wanted a foil to Hawthorne, and I wanted a character who, on the surface, is everything that Hawthorne isn't. So she initially they call her like lame, and they're a poser, or that she's a poser, and it's everything that Hawthorne is being projected onto Maple, and she's very powerful, whereas Hawthorne really has no magical powers,
Mhm.
but her powers are like flowers, and it's everything that they deem like lame. But I think with her, I really wanted a foil also that inside someone who is outwardly negative, usually there is a little bit of hope. And I think with Maple, I wanted a character to really subvert that. That often it's people who are the smiliest, who maybe, like in Maple's case, uh, was kind of encouraged to be that way, was exploited perhaps for some pieces of her nature.
Oh, so okay. I think that's a great sell
Okay, cool.
because now I think the book isn't gonna go the way that I thought it was gonna go. I not right like
Okay, yeah, perhaps it goes a little, who could say?
yeah, one could say Maple was forced to wear pink.
Yes, yeah, perhaps, but perhaps given their own free will, both of those characters would maybe live radically different lives or yeah, appreciate what's around them.
We said at the start of the show that this was your pandemic project. Can you talk about what it was like during the pandemic? We I think we all lived it, but what it was like during the pandemic and then working on a project like this, because I feel like a lot of people in the pandemic started a bunch of stuff and then just kind of fell by the wayside. But you actually finished this. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I had always have always wanted to do a graphic novel to complete. I didn't go to animation school, so I didn't have like a thesis film or any real complete story that was my own. And it was like a dream of mine, but I mean, and I'm sure that everyone who works in the arts understands this, like really tough to find the time and the space to be able to like actually sit down and do that because you have to earn a living. And I felt like yeah, that there was never going to be a time and space to slow down. I do not love that that time and space became available to me because I lived alone during a global pandemic. But ultimately, I did find myself like I was in my apartment alone, had a lot of free time on my hands, and I kind of tapped back into that like kid play space of just like, okay, what's a story I want to tell with no real intention or thought that I could actually finish this, just kind of like, here's what it could look like. Um, and then things get real when you become accountable to people to finish. And it's really only through them being like, hey, you have deadlines that I was able to pull this off. So,
what? How did that happen? So you were working on it and then you actually sold it before you were done with it, or like how that happen?
yeah, no. So I got very lucky. I knew I wanted to work and just see what the publishing field was about. So I went through like the traditional process of finding an agent. So I went through manuscript wish list and I cold emailed agents and found someone who was willing to work with me. And despite the fact that I didn't, it existed sort of in a form. It was a Nick Short's pitch. Many things were different, but like I had some like vague ideas and characters. Um, and then from there was able to kind of like put string a pitch together. And then working with my agent was able to find someone an editor who believed in the project. And that was all during COVID. So yeah.
That that is an incredible story because I was imagining that during COVID, publishers would be like, "Oh my God, where are we going to get paper?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, that was actually a huge thing. There was a huge shortage of paper. That was actually okay because I was late and slow anyway, but like 100% like supply chain issues through that industry while this was all going down.
When you say you were late, when was this book supposed to come out?
Gosh, so I signed a deal in 2021,
Okay.
and I think we were targeting like it wasn't so far off. I want to say it was like late 24 or like
Okay.
winter, like January 25. So it wasn't like way far off, but I definitely underestimated the reality of having a full-time job and
Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, I was working on Wish the duration of this. I actually the day that I signed the deal, I also got the email from Disney. And so it was like a weird day and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be very busy."
At this point in time, you were already in LA. You were already So you were going to be working on which? So like, had you
Yeah.
just moved to LA or
No, I've been in LA for like 12, almost 13 years. I was working
okay?
at Netflix at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, but didn't know about Disney yet. And then the yeah, until someone hands you a contract, I felt like incapable of being. I think now I could be accountable to myself, but at the time, I had to really be like, you can do this, you can do this, you can finish something.
Oh, it was very difficult during the pandemic to stay focused on anything unless somebody was holding you accountable.
Yes,
Because there was
totally.
all if you lived alone, then you had to handle all of the things that have to do with living alone, like laundry
Yes.
and food
Yeah,
and
yeah.
um,
Zooming in with loved ones, totally.
zooming with loved ones all the time.
Yep,
Um, and
constantly.
I don't know what the lockdown rules were like in LA, but I imagine that people just weren't going out, period.
Yeah, it was pretty tight. I did a lot of Zoom D&D, and a lot of this book was spent while playing Zoom D&D. I'd be like drawing. And in fact, I hid my D&D party. They're like randomly in different scenes
I was gonna
because they were like
say,
with me. Yeah,
did playing D&D influence the writing of this book?
totally, totally. Yeah, my good friend is a super funny DM, and the people I worked with, there was like so much good fantasy storytelling and humor that like even just expressions or the way that like largely the book had been written, but like somebody would say a line in D&D and I'd be like, oh, that's a good delivery, and like mimicking their expressions in the art and so on.
How so can you talk about the process of creating the book itself? Because I'm always curious to see how a single writer and artist is works on it because I know some people will write a full script for themselves and then work with that, and then I know some people are just going to go right on the page.
Yeah, totally. Totally. It was actually a lot of trial and error, and maybe the hardest part for me, just because I'm used to getting scripts and turning them into storyboards. That's what I do at Disney and in animation. But the way that comic scripts are, like, so initially the first 50 to 60 pages of Evilish, I wrote out as like a screenplay style script. And they were like, hey, traditionally our authors will, panel one, description, character dialogue, panel two, description. And that was really tough for me to wrap my head around. It was just thinking very differently. And ultimately, I'm super grateful for it because, like, I don't think I would ever work screenplay method again. The specificity and the intention behind this panel is conveying this information is
Yeah.
why comics are such a cool medium.
And did did you have to do it that way for your editors or like is that just
Yeah,
your
yeah.
preference?
Yeah, I think so at first I started like thumbnailing the pages along to my when I was writing, and so I'd have like little tiny thumbnails. And then I found that that actually held me back, and I had to stop thinking of it as one thing because it'd get overwhelming. And I'd be like, okay, I'm writing this script and then I'm going to deliver it to the illustrator, and the illustrator's me. And of course I was able to make some changes, but it just bite-sized pieces was like way more manageable.
Can I talk to you about can I ask you about the idea of being fond of the misunderstood bad guys because
Totally.
I feel like universally that is true, but I also feel like people your age are really more like keyed into that. I call it the Tumblr generation.
Oh, totally.
So like what do you think is it about that draws you guys in?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's the Tumblrification of it all, where you get long essays, like this is why this villain story is really cool. But I also think, I think that there's some historical precedent when it comes to villain characters in particular. I think one criticism that gets levied occasionally, like to animation, is that like um, villains can be queer coded. That's something that people say, like, "Hey, you're queer coding your villains." as a non-binary kid, I was like, heck yeah, queer code those villains. I love those villains. That's me. Like, so it
Oh,
kind of
like
has this
Ursula.
freedom. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. It
yeah.
was like, yeah, divine. Like, wait, that's such a cool, and that's a legitimate criticism, but I'm also like, wait, I love Ursula. Like, go off, Ursula. So
So
there's that.
yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like the villains were allowed to be things that the heroes weren't allowed to be.
The villains get the coolest songs. They get to really belt in the way, like the hero gets the I want song, but the villain gets to list all of their grievances, and there's really some like freedom in that. Um, and I think that's I like not to get too Disney, but I think that's why Let It Go was so powerful, is because like that was a way for a hero character. Because Elsa is the Snow Queen who was almost a villain, and I
Yeah.
think there's something really powerful about a character that like kind of is too powerful for their own good and the world doesn't understand them is just like very compelling and relatable.
Let it be said that my favorite song in Wish is in fact the villain song.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super like fun and bouncy and wild.
I was always telling people that yeah, okay, if you've ever had a like a group project and you're the lead and people keep messing up, that's the best song to be singing.
Yeah. No, honestly, where you're like, it's just so self-indulgent, you know?
Yeah. So when it comes to villains and the quote unquote redemption arc, which the most famous in recent memory is probably in fact Prince Zuko's. Um, so what do you think it is about that makes it super compelling?
Hmm. I think uh I think something that I like to see more of in storytelling, like as much as Hawthorne wants to be a villain, they are ultimately the protagonist of the story. It's their story. And I think there's something really interesting about a character who is very flawed and makes mistakes. And I think it's easy to shy away from a character who like really badly messes up, but all of us carry shame or things that they wish they could change or qualities in themselves that they wish they could just like break through to the other side on. And those extremes are just really exciting. So I wanted a character who is so resentful of the world around them and kind of is forced to confront the joy, a lot of joys about being in a community and so on.
I realize this may be a loaded question in 2025, but are is everybody redeemable?
Ooh, okay. If you had asked me 5, 10 years ago, I would say like 100%. I think everyone has that, like, and like, okay, let's even talk about movies. Like, I hated in the first Kung Fu Panda when they killed Tai Lung. I was like, what do you like? He's no, let him go. I think I think we've hit a point in our storytelling culturally, and I think someone said it's to me recently where it's like someone can do something good and you can say good for them, but you still did something bad. And I think no one can escape accountability. Uh, you may be able to do good things, but depending on the severity of the bad thing you did, you can't escape the fact that you did it.
Yeah.
People can forgive, but no, you can't do it again. And people will know, they won't forget that you did that.
You can't be sorry and then do the same thing again.
No, absolutely not. No.
Essentially, you read
Yeah.
into that all of that stuff what you will, everyone.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
In Evilish, as Hawthorne becomes part of the infamous Brigade of Shade. And I mean the synopsis is that they want to be a part of the infamous
Yes,
Brigade
I
of
do.
Shade.
Very badly.
And that eventually Hawthorne will be leading the brigade. Um, how do you write something like that where essentially speaking, he Hawthorne gets what they want.
Yeah,
And usually that's the end of the story. So
yeah.
how do you write that as you go?
It's it was tough at first. I think it was harder to break it for me into like a three act structure. I'm a big Joseph Campbell nerd, so I like to like it, it happens a little early where you don't really quite know, is act one after the tryouts or is act one, when they're crowned. I think I think part of it for me was showing that, yeah, they got the fleeting joy of it, but then the moment that they peer inside the walls of the Brigade of Shades castle, they're like, wait, this is not at all what I thought it would be. Like, you guys are a bunch of burnouts, like griefing little kids in video games on the couch, and like um I thought we were gonna be out doing cool stuff. And I think that's kind of the fun and games of it. And like sort of my favorite part is them trying to get everyone back into shape and on their A game. And Hawthorne is so resistant to being the manager at their mom's potion shop, but actually they're a fairly good manager. And they like introduce a chore wheel and like budgeting and things that so they get what they want, but not quite what they need when they join the brigade.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
here, here's my last couple of questions. Number one, fill in the blank. If you like blank, you should read Evil-ish.
Okay. I think the two closest graphic novels are actually my friend Moss Lawton's Halloween. If you like Halloween, you should read Evilish. If you like Evilish, you should read Halloween. Um, and then I also want to say, if you're a big fan of Rickety Stitch or Steve Lichman, which are both cool. That was a really long fill in the blank. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Um, and then what is next for Kennedy Terrell?
Next, so I am illustrating Amy Brown's graphic novel called Earth Every Other Wednesday. It's middle grade. It's through Simon and Schuster, and it's sci-fi, and it's super fun. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm also writing and illustrating my next YA graphic novel through 501 Friends, and it's going to be really exciting. And I'm going to share more soon, but I'm really excited to push myself emotionally and visually and kind of I feel like this is such a sophomore graphic novel thing, but I'm really excited to break out of my line work and sort of play with color and shape and maybe even watercolor. So we'll see.
Tell everybody where we can find you on your socials and where everybody can order the book.
Yes. Okay. So you can find the book anywhere books are sold if you want. That's through Barnes and Noble, through Amazon, through your local bookseller, online. Um, You can find me at Kennedy Tarrell, Kennedy. Wait, you can see it on the thing. Kind of anywhere. So like Instagram, Blue Sky, Kara, Threads. I'll be on
Have,
all those spaces.
have I been mispronouncing your last name this whole time? Is it actually Tarrell?
Okay, it's really funny that you say that because it is technically Terrell, but Kennedy Terrell sounds like it just rolls off the tongue. So I don't correct people. Either way is fine.
Okay, because if I have been mispronouncing your name, someone is to blame.
And it's me for not saying it, but I really don't care.
Not you. And I will have
Oh
words with
boy.
that person. Thank you so much, Kennedy.
Thank
By
you.
the way, everybody, this interview is being conducted a couple of days before Kennedy's birthday. So
Yeah.
happy birthday. And if
Thank you.
everybody wants to give Kennedy a birthday present, go buy Evil-ish.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kennedy.